Hello, I'm Rob.
And I'm Rob.
And welcome to Marmalade. And it's the beginning of October, so we're going to be looking back at what games we've been playing over the last month. So I'm going to kick things off with an interesting little indie game that I found on the PlayStation Network. It's on Steam as well, and it's called Never Alone. It's developed by Upper One Games, published by Eline Media. But do you know the thing I kind of love about it is that it's telling a story about a culture, a living, breathing culture, a living, breathing people through a game. The thing is, it's your Commodore Garden puzzle platformer. You play as a little, how do you say it? I hope I'm not going to butcher this, but it's a Inupiaq?
You're as close as anybody's going to get, let's be honest. Who doesn't speak the language and who isn't versed in it.
Yeah.
You got as close as you're going to get.
Yeah, you play as a young Inupiaq girl and who basically leaves her village looking for the source of this ongoing blizzard, and she makes friends with a fox who might be a spirit, might be just a normal fox, you don't know. And it's basically like this co-op puzzle platformer game with some combat elements, because you get this spiritual bowler from the Owl Man at some point in the game, which you can direct. It's a bit cumbersome, that bit, I thought, the way you direct it and release it.
It's incredibly cumbersome, and the only enemy you face is a polar bear who just chases you forever.
Everything around that, though, I thought the aesthetic, I thought the white on black on grey on kind of pale blue and light blue, that sort of aesthetic, I thought that worked really well, so that when you had like a fire or something like that, it really stood out in stark contrast to the rest of the imagery that's around. I mean, there's no point in me talking about controls because we've already talked about the bowler thing, and the rest of it's fairly simple. It's a puzzle platformer.
I wasn't that won over by it.
See, this is the thing. I think from my perspective, because I love stories, I love things related to stories and things that are telling stories.
Yeah, but the story's not that interesting.
See,
in fact, it's not even a story.
See, that's the thing. For me, what I liked about it was that wasn't so much the story itself. It was the fact that you were opening up these segments on the Inupiaq culture. You know, all those little documentary bits that they'd filmed that you could watch in one of the other sections, which I found those bits were quite fascinating because it's a look into a living, breathing culture that still exists.
Yeah, I mean, it's a topic that I've wanted to do on Impossible Mission maybe for a while. Can educational games be a thing?
Yeah.
And the short version of that story, or that episode for me anyway, would be, yes, there can be a thing as long as the game themselves is interesting.
Yeah.
And I don't think this game is that interesting. It's kind of a very workaday side-scrolling platformer, which got an awful lot more critical acclaim than it probably deserved, purely because of the fact that it was representing a group of people who aren't represented in any medium, really. And that comes down to my idea. The thing that I think a lot, representation isn't the be-all and end-all. There's a difference between representation and tokenism.
Yeah.
And I don't think this is tokenism, but I also don't think it's, well, yeah, there's thoughts that I've got there swirling around, but
yeah,
I just wasn't that impressed with it. I found it kind of lackluster.
Well, this is the thing. I kind of get what you mean. The things that I like about this game aren't really related to the game itself, the way it plays, everything like that. I found it a little bit cumbersome when it comes to the game itself, and it just felt.
I don't know about you, but there's a bit with a polar bear where you're in like this room and you got to escape the room.
Yeah.
And it doesn't give you any sort of clues as to how you do it. And I watched a YouTube video which basically says you've got to make the polar bear bang his head against the ice brick wall, which the ice brick wall will fall. And at not one point does it give you a clue that you're supposed to do that. Which is fine. Lots of games don't hold your hand, but there's a difference between holding your hand and not giving you a slightest inkling of what the hell's going on.
And that's one of the bits that annoyed me about this game. Because there are several occasions when that happens. There's a bit where you're... it's after the little girl finds out... spoilers, by the way, if you haven't played this. But it's after the little girl finds out about her village, and you have to go underground where the little people are, because they've stolen the Owl Man's thing, and you have to get it back. And there's the bit where he's throwing boulders at you. And I'm on this platform that tilts like a seesaw, and I'm going, okay, I have to avoid the boulders, but what do I do next? What do I do next? And I kept dying at that bit from boulders landing on me or on the fox.
Also, I kept dying because the platforming is really imprecise.
Yeah. I was going to mention that in a second, but I kept dying at that bit because I didn't know I was supposed to let the boulder go to the other side of the platform to raise the platform up so I could jump over the gap. Didn't know that, and it doesn't tell you that at any point. Now that I know is fairly easy to figure out after a bit, trial and error and all that. But as you said, the platforming is imprecise. But then again, I kind of forgive that because it's an indie game.
Yeah, there's many indie games where the platforming is crisp.
Yeah.
That's not as an excuse for a game to be kind of lackluster in one of the key departments.
Yeah, I accept that, but I think that a lot of their effort went on to kind of promoting the culture and making people aware of the culture.
Yeah, I don't buy that. You can do both. There's not like pressure for them to release a game quickly. Indie games can release it when they want to release it. And the fact that it's so far after the fact.
Yeah.
This was released, 2013, 2014?
2014, yeah.
This could have been patched in the 6 years since, and it hasn't been. Which, again, speaks to what I say. I found it kind of lackluster. It's not been updated in all this time. That's kind of, yeah.
You know, I liked it, but like you said, there are problems with it. I liked what it was trying to do, I think, more than I actually liked the game. I liked the approach it was taking, and I think that's all I can really say about it.
That's fair.
The documentary bits were fascinating. Don't get me wrong; those were all fascinating, and that's the bit that I liked about it the most.
The thing that you haven't actually, the lead that you have buried is it's not actually delivered in English or French or
I was going to get to that.
Japanese.
I was going to get to that.
That's probably one of the more interesting aspects of it. So I'll let you pick up that bone that I threw you.
Well, I was going to get to that. The fact that it's all in the Inupiaq language, and what the other aspect that I like was that I think it's the second documentary, which is Tell Me a Story. And that's the whole basis of the game, is an old man telling the story of this young girl who is basically just a myth or something like that. And that's the character that you play in the game, is this girl from this story, you know? And that, I thought, was an interesting aspect. But again, like you said, the gameplay lets it down.
Yeah, which is kind of a big thing for a game, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. More on that in a bit.
Rob, on the last edition of Monthly Marmalade, Games Marmalade, at the beginning of September, his sort of through line throughout the entirety of the episode was that he's come back off like a major games fatigue.
Yeah. We're not talking like 1 or 2 weeks or a couple of months. We're talking a long time. Most of the PS4 generation.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've actually enjoyed the PlayStation 4 generation that much. One of the upcoming episodes of, and actually this next one coming up.
Yeah.
So, do we think it's a good generation? No, we don't. Yeah, I'm struggling with my gamer status, really. And the next generation isn't exactly filling me with hope that it's going to improve. But what I've really looked at is doubling down on the things that I like. And one of the things I like is Ryu Gagatoku games. I've not been playing another Yakuza because that would frankly be repetitive, and to repeat myself so much in 2 episodes would be frankly ludicrous.
I know what you've been playing.
But I've been playing Judgment.
Yeah.
Judgment is curious. It takes place in Kamurocho. You play a ex-lawyer turned private investigator who's heavily affiliated with the Toho clan, but it's not the Toho clan with Goro Majima, Kiryu, Daigoro, or anybody like that. No. This is the alternate reality Kamurocho. And just on that point, it's really weird, because it's so familiar, but so different. The first person you meet in Kamurocho who's like Toho clan is he's a proper gangster.
Does he roll his R's and everything?
Near enough. Say what you will about Majima and Kiryu, they're not gangsters. I mean, one of them's basically a cartoon pirate, and the other one's basically a karaoke singing meat castle with a fetish for bikes.
See, the thing is, your description's great, but I think you've forgotten they're both idealistic romantics.
Yes, that sort of aspect of it's not there. It's much more grounded, and the Toho clan actually feel dangerous. Like, genuinely dangerous. But I've kind of buried the lead. It's in the Yakuza games. In the Yakuza games, you basically just meat castling your way through things. You got a problem, I'm going to meat castle this in the face.
Gonna hit you with a signboard and then flatten you.
And then throw a knife in your stomach and then knee it in your stomach all the way through. But he's not dead, he's just sleeping.
There are bicycles everywhere. They're weapons. They're not bicycles.
Yeah. But in this, he's a martial artist, the lead character. He's not just punching everything really hard and kicking them into oblivion. He's got martial arts techniques.
I will say, Judgment has one of the best heat mods.
Maybe.
The drunken boxing one.
Yeah. It's kind of cliche, isn't it?
It's kind of cliche, but what I want to know is, where did he get the drink from?
It's Camarucho, you can get things. But it's a detective game. And the only detective game that I've really played some indie ones, like indie point and click, but that's not really the same, is it?
No.
The only real sort of profiled investigator game, detective game, is LA Noire. And that's basically like reacting to people's gurns. Because that's what they did, like the gurning in different ways. What could he possibly be thinking? I don't know, because he's basically chewing on something really chewy. And it could be millions of things. There's no way to gauge what the hell's happening here. This is awful. How did this get acclaim? Go away, you stupid game.
You've played Goat Simulator, now play Gurn Simulator.
Yeah, Judgment, you got to go find the clues, you got to ask the right questions, got to go to the right places. And it's this thing that I didn't actually realise I wanted. 'Cause honestly, I mean, it could have been in a different place. I think that's kind of a cop-out. It could have been a number of places that they've been to in the Yakuza franchise of Ryu Kakatoku. They've been all over Japan, Osaka, all over the place. Yokohama, all over the place. And they just recycle Kamurocho again. It's one of the things that always comes back to me in the Yakuza. The one problem I have with the Yakuza thing, it uses that place so much, it starts to feel a bit lazy.
Yeah.
I love them dearly, but you see what I mean?
Yeah. I do see what you mean. I mean, one of the things I like about Yakuza games is from Yakuza 0 all the way through to Yakuza 6, and I'm including the Kiwami games rather than the original versions of the games. You get to see Kamurocho and Osaka change over time. You'll see different signs and stuff like that. But that's the only real change. The street layout's basically the same.
Identical, yeah.
You know, and that's the thing that, you know, I'd like them to basically include more areas of Japan. In Osaka, you've basically got like the main shopping areas, but it'd be nice if they could include some of the more touristy areas.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see what they're going to do in like the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X.
Yeah.
You know, because usually there's like a point where there's an invisible wall and you can't cross that road.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really like what Judgment's done. I hope they'll continue it because it's nice to see them sort of stretch the legs creatively.
Yeah.
I mean, Kiryu, I love Kiryu dearly. Maybe Ichiban, I think the new guy's called. Which is an odd name for a character, and that's number one, isn't it, Ichiban?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Do you know what? Do you know who he reminds me of?
Who?
Right. There's a Japanese band who did the theme tune for a particular anime series. I can't remember what it was. Death Parade. That was it. And the band is called Bradio, and the song was called Flyers. And the lead singer of Bradio looks like the younger brother or the younger identical twin of the main character from the new Yakuza game.
But yeah, I mean, the amount of rhetoric on, like, you see Sega pushing the new Yakuza game, and the amount of comments like, "Oh, this isn't my Yakuza. Well, it's turn-based nonsense. Oh, it's crap. It's crap. It's crap. It's crap." They've said in interviews that they've kind of taken that formula as far as they could, so they like to try something else. If it works, fantastic. If it doesn't, we'll go back to the old thing. So this is the same way I look at Judgment. Judgment is them sort of trying something new, and they're very good at it. The whole investigative stuff I really like.
Well, this is one of the reasons why we like the Yakuza games, is because of the creativity and the thought that goes into the games, and the thought that goes into the fine details that make up the game. Okay, so the combat system is different from how it's been before. You don't play it just for the combat, do you?
No, I mean, in Judgment, he moves like a squid, basically.
Yeah, but I mean, the Yakuza games are games that you play because you love the characters, you love the setting, you want to see what happens next, you know? You play the games...
Have you seen the Majima summon, by the way?
Yes.
He runs down the side of the building and throwing knives at the other guy. It's amazing.
Well, Majima is kind of... I think more people like Majima than like Kiryu at this point.
Well, it's impossible not to, and the amount of shit posting about Goro Majima is amazing.
Yeah, but I mean...
It's a black hole you should never fall into, by the way.
Yeah, anyone who plays Yakuza 0 as well, right? Just be prepared to fall in love with Majima.
I've been in love with the character.
I know. I'm warning everyone else.
Time.
I'm warning everyone else, right? Especially the people who have not played Yakuza 0 and don't like Majima, think he's a bit of a weirdo. If you've not played Yakuza 0, you don't understand.
I think that's a segue.
Yes, it is a segue because the next game that I want to talk about is, well, this game had problems, right? This game had big problems because it was originally supposed to come out. It was originally supposed to come out in 2000 and 2011, I think.
When did it come out?
It then came out in 2014, and the reason it came out was because for the delay was because the production was halted in 2011, 3 days after the Tohoku earthquake and tsunami. And there's a very specific reason why this game, well, basically it's Disaster Report 4, and there's no way they could release that game at that point. No way.
No, I mean, as far as I understand it, even to this day, there's in the north, there's problems.
Yeah.
Post-earthquake and tsunami.
Exactly. And eventually Disaster Report 4 came out, and because this game was originally meant for the PS3, and it shows in so many ways. It was finally released in 2018. Sorry, it got a new publisher in 2014, finally released in 2018. And it's developed by Granzella, published by NIS America. And yeah, see, you play the role of somebody who's just basically going into town. You get to develop your character at the beginning of the game. You get a basic character creator, and mine ended up looking like some kind of Zoro wannabe with the shock of green hair and stuff like that. And then, as the story goes on, you basically get to choose your character traits. You know, you can be selfish, you can be helpful, you can be just kind of looking out for yourself, rather than being like rather than being obscenely selfish. You can basically just be, look, I'm going to look after myself first before I can look after anyone else. But if I see someone who needs help, I might help them if it doesn't kind of put me in danger. Or you can be like a total altruist and say, I'm going to help everybody. Then the earthquake happens and you basically have to escape the city. Now, some differences to this game. It's got a load of playable characters that you can use. I think there's more in this than any other Disaster Report game. And cleanliness has become one of the parameters to keep your stress level down. Because your stress level is something that you have to manage in this game. You're in the middle of a disaster zone. You're trying to escape the disaster zone.
Oh, I hate that sort of thing in games, I'll be honest. That measure management, like when your character's thirsty and you've got to keep him drinking, and then when he gets too thirsty, the character ends up dying or hunger meters.
Thankfully, those aren't really that much of an issue. The stress is the major issue and your health is a major issue. And the thing that annoyed me about this was it was originally developed for the PS3 and it shows in so many ways. This looks and plays like a PS3 game, right?
What does that mean, though?
I mean that...
People say that all the time. Like, playing like a PlayStation 3 game is like a sin. How could you play like a PlayStation 3
I'm not saying
game? It's terrible.
No, I'm not saying it's a bad thing on the PS3.
But it's kind of become like a shorthand, isn't it? Like, people say, it's so bad it plays like a PlayStation 2 game. Come on.
See, what I'm talking about is that the controls are clunky, right, for the PS4, right? For the PS3, I could live with it. If this came out on the PS3, I'd be fine with it. Totally fine. But the fact is, it's on a much more powerful console. It's had more development time since the new publishers got hold of it. So it's had an extra 4 years of development time that they could have used to basically improve it for the PS4, right? In fact, during that time, they probably could have rebuilt the game from the ground up. But it doesn't feel like they've done that. It feels like they basically just added on to what they originally had to try and get the game out in amongst whatever other problems they were having. But when I say it plays like a PS3 game, and it looks like a PS3 game, I mean in terms of the graphical quality, the character models, the animation, it's nowhere near the level of what you expect on a PS4.
Yeah.
And the actual, and the fact that there are only certain basic actions, you can't jump in this game, which is...
I remember those days.
I mean, how can you not jump in a game where you have to navigate your way through various disaster areas? You can crawl and, navigate your way through on a first-person perspective, right? But you can't jump.
I love that aspect. You can, in like a first-person shooter, you can take down like a flight of tanks, but once you get like a shin-high curb, it's like, no, it's too much, man. Too much.
What am I, a Dalek?
Yes, apparently PlayStation 3 era things were Daleks.
And that's the thing. You can't climb, you can't jump. You can go into buildings and stuff and explore buildings, and that's great. That's a big improvement from the old games. I played a few of the old games before. The cleanliness thing is quite an interesting thing because of the stress level, but it does mean that your character can now go to the toilet as well. And there are some humorous moments to lighten the mood. I basically went into a changing room in this clothing store, and one of the options was, admire yourself in the mirror. So I chose that option, and my character's just going, yes, I look good, don't I?
That's lightening the mood.
It's amusing because I just changed the character's outfit to something that made him look more like a Yakuza with a flat cap, like a Yorkshire Yakuza.
I'm shaking my head in disgust, by the way.
A Yakuza.
Just so you know.
I'm a Philistine, aren't I? I should go stand in the corner for that.
Yeah, you are.
Disaster Report 4 Summer Memories, that's what it's called, the full title. It takes place during the summer in Hisui City during the year 20 whatever. Never gives you the year, and your character, as I said, you develop the character traits as you play the game, and you kind of have to reinforce those traits as you play in the game.
Yeah.
In principle, it's actually a great concept for a game. I think it's got some really good ideas, and I think that it's, I think that with a bit more work and a bit more effort, it could have been a really good game. But it's not at the moment.
Like so many Japanese games, that seems to be true.
Yeah.
It's not an industry in a boom period, is it? The Japanese game industry.
I don't think it is. I think certain publishers and developers are okay at the moment, but I think in general the Japanese games industry isn't doing too great, and this is one example of it. It's just I don't expect this kind of level from a game that's in the fourth iteration of its franchise.
You say that, but there's that. What's that game called? Where you basically side scroll left to right and you shoot giant ants from space.
You don't side scroll anymore. You're talking about Earth Defense Force, and
that game has barely developed over decades.
No. Earth Defense Force has developed a lot. You
now go forward too.
No. It's 3D character models. You have different guns. You can run. You can jump. You can have characters who fly through the sky. There's all sorts of things you can do in Earth Defense Force. And if you annoy enough of the ants or whatever it is you're fighting, whichever insects they are, if you annoy enough of them, you can basically... I had one scene where I was basically standing at the bottom of a church and the ants are pouring in through a hole in the top of the church and I'm shooting them down. It just felt like the last scene... You know that scene in Aliens where... what's his name? The one who says...
Bill Paxton.
Yeah, Bill Paxton's character, where he's at the end going, come on, get some. And he's just shooting away. It just felt like that.
It's still garbage, though.
It's still garbage, yeah. It's utter garbage, but it was fun. And Disaster Report 4, okay, it's a serious game because it's dealing with a disaster area. You have to save people. You have to save yourself. It lacks any emotional impact. You don't really relate to the characters, and it plays like a clunker.
A clunker?
Yeah.
That's a box quote that if I've ever heard one. Plays like a clunker.
I'm sorry, but it's the fairest assessment I can give for a game, and I played this for a while wanting to like it because I've liked the other Disaster Report games. The other games had some kind of emotional depth to them, but this one just felt really, really shallow.
Yeah. Okay. So I've only played 2 games this month because, like I said, I've really been struggling with games I'll be honest. I mean, even like the big announcements for the new big titles, they're not really doing it for me. I tell you what is doing it for me. I mean, you said before how you really are appealed by stories.
Yeah.
Stories are your thing.
Yeah.
I'm much shallower than that. I'm much, much shallower than that. I'm appealed to by aesthetics. Art direction does a hell of a lot more for me than AAA game with whatever Frostbite engine or whatever engine, Decima engine, I don't care. Doesn't mean a thing to me. Aesthetics make the world a difference.
Yeah.
So I've been playing new on Games Pass for PC, Night in the Woods.
Ooh.
Which is a game I've wanted to play for a while, but its price has kind of stayed pretty solid up there. So this is a great opportunity to get in the game that I've been looking forward to for a while. You play May, a millennial angsty cat who comes back to her hometown, and some murderings are happening. It's also got character though. It's one of these things I've got to relate it to movies. So often the case for me. When it's a coming-of-age movie, if it's about women, I'll relate to it far more. Now, I don't know what that says about me at all. In fact, I'm kind of confused.
Okay, but I have to ask, does this mean you actually liked that Britney Spears movie?
I have no idea what you're talking about. I'll be honest. I didn't know she did a movie, but yeah, like Frances Ha, Lady Bird there, relate to me much more than other things have.
Yeah.
This is the same. It's about a young woman who's come back from university, who's dropped out of college, and I relate to the vibe of these characters so much. And that's the sort of, it's an adventure game, which isn't an adventure. It's basically just pottering around your little one-horse town. That's another aspect of it that I really relate to. One of the things that's really defined my life for the past decade is I really hate my hometown. Like, I really hate this place. Like, so much.
It's true, he does.
But yeah, this is a story about a girl who goes to college. College isn't for her. She comes back home defeated, which is very relatable.
Yeah. And
also, it's got like great characters. This is reminding me of Mutazone. It's a game which has its loads of art aesthetic, great music, and I just relate with the characters so much. And again, that's another female lead. What is it with me? What's happening? I can't keep track of myself. But yeah, I really, really like Night in the Woods. It's the sort of thing which is appealing to me more and more these days. It's the aesthetics, it's the mood of the visuals, the art direction, it's the music, it's the sense of personality, the sort of people I know in the characters.
Yeah.
If I play another game where it's about some white dude saving the world, I just don't care anymore. I really don't care. And I'm speaking as a white dude. So that should be relating with these white dudes saving the world, but I'm not. I'm really not. I'm relating to white girls in the suburbs going through hard times.
And
relating to white dudes saving the world.
Does this mean?
And I know I'm laughing when I'm saying this. I'm maybe laughing because I don't know how else to respond. Because admitting it's kind of weird, isn't it?
Well, it does lead me to my next question. Does this mean that you were influenced by Richard Ayoade, and now you have a greater appreciation of the movie White Chicks?
Again, you're referencing stuff that I have no idea what you're talking about. I know Richard Ayoade, I know the movie White Chicks, but that's it.
There's an episode of 8 out of 10 Cats Does Countdown. That was he brought White Chicks on and started singing its praises.
Oh, well, I haven't seen it. But yeah, I really like Night in the Woods, and honestly, that's appealing to me more. And I'm fearful, you know, that game which is on PlayStation 5. There's like, Returnal, which looks cool. There's God of War Ragnarok, which has been announced.
Yeah.
All this and all that. And I'm fear that the one that I'm really going to dig is Goodbye Volcano High, and I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's happening,
right,
Rob.
I'll tell you something. Goodbye Volcano High, I've actually got my eye on. I think that's actually going to be a sleeper hit.
But you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
This is not the way I used to appreciate games, but just something's twisted recently. Something's turned.
I think it's one of the effects of gaming fatigue, is that you start looking for things that are a bit more esoteric, a bit more intriguing, a bit more interesting. You're no longer part of the AAA crowd.
I wouldn't say that. I mean, what I described them all as is a little bit more human.
Yeah, but
the minute that you play it as an anthropomorphic cat called May.
Yeah,
but it's much more human.
Well, that's what I mean. The reason why is because it is more human. Games like that are generally more human. And that's actually a great segue for me.
Well, I'm glad I set you up with it, so...
You know how you're all about the aesthetics and I'm all about the story, yeah?
Yeah.
Well, there was a game that came out on the Xbox One, and it was an Xbox One exclusive at the time, but now it's on the PS4 as well. And it's developed by Coldwood Interactive, released by Electronic Arts, and you know what? EA done good with this one, because this, quite literally, is the essence of aesthetics and story combined into one beautiful platforming whole.
So you're talking about FIFA 20?
No, I'm talking about Unravel. Oh my god. Oh my god, is this game gorgeous. And I knew it was good looking when we saw the demos of it and everything like that, when we see the trailers of it and everything like that. Didn't realise just how in-depth it was in terms of the story and how much of the storytelling is told through actions rather than words, through imagery rather than words. There's basically no real voices in this. The story is basically, all about memories, all about an old woman's memories through her life, and you are a ball of yarn who's come to life, and you're basically travelling your way through gardens and various things like that, picking up different bits of memories, and it's just, there's a beauty to this that I find difficult to describe. Thing is, the beauty in this, right? Imagine a typical English garden, yeah? Or a garden from anywhere else in the Western world, yeah?
I remember the outside world, yeah.
Now, and if you are fond of the outside world and you want to revisit the outside world, Unravel is the game to play, by the way. Imagine you are only a few inches tall and you're navigating your way through an overgrown garden, through old tricycles and old garden sheds and stuff like that, looking for bits of memories, right? And you are a ball of yarn, and you're tied down by this ball of yarn. So as you're traveling further, the yarn that makes you is actually running out. So you have to find other bits of yarn in the garden to actually replenish the yarn that you've got, and you have to tie them together so you can basically be whole again and continue your journey. And you can use your yarn in interesting ways. You can use it as like a lasso, and you can swing from side to side. You can tie the ends off and make a little bridge that you can push things on, or become a trampoline.
Yeah.
It's really fascinating the way it's used, and there are elements of this that I can see in that Kirby game, Kirby's Epic Yarn. I can see elements of Kirby's
because that was much more impressive than Unraveled though, because that whole world is made out of wool, isn't it?
That whole world,
in Kirby.
See, this is the thing. Everyone says that whole world, Kirby's whole world, is made out of wool, and that's why it's more impressive. You know what? I disagree.
Well, aesthetics is a kind of eye of the beholder, isn't it? I mean, for me, that whole world made out of yarn is like that's. It reminds me of what was the game? The Lego Movie. Actually, it reminds me of the Lego Movie.
Yeah. No, in terms of I think the Kirby's Epic Yarn, I think the whole world being made out of yarn is a brilliant achievement. But I disagree because Unravel, literally, it looks like a ball of yarn in a normal world, right? The actual imagery, that contrast between a character made out of a ball of yarn, something like Sackboy, right? If Sackboy was sitting on your shelf, moving around, doing his own thing, imagine that.
So hopefully you're listening to this, and hopefully you've got a plush of Sackboy, and hopefully you're going to look behind you, make sure that Sackboy's not doing things while you're not watching. Because I can guarantee you Sackboy does stuff. He does butt stuff.
But anyway, leaving that horror.
Sorry for undermining you completely. Sorry for undermining you completely.
See, I was talking about something beautiful and wholesome, and he went and ruined it.
Well, Sackboy likes butt stuff. What do you think Sackboy's Big Adventure's about, Rob?
Right. Okay. Back to Unravel. I think it's technically, in terms of the aesthetics, it's technically brilliant. Okay. The garden scenes. You have little insects flying off. You have scenes where you've got just like badgers and different, other countryside animals just in the background, just doing their own thing. There's bits where like a butterfly just flies off a thing, and the little character looks at watches it fly away while you're actually moving him.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's little details like that that just make you fall in love with this little character. See, I think Sackboy's a great creation. I think Sackboy is adorable and a great creation. But you know what? This little character from Unravel, I love as much as Sackboy.
Blasphemous.
It's not blasphemous. These two could be the best of friends.
It is blasphemous because you see, one's made by EA, and you can't you're not allowed to, bro.
I'm sorry, but Yanni, right? That's his name, Yanni. Him and Sackboy on an adventure, road trip together. You know, the plush version of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, if you will.
You see, you've went too far now. I've not went too far with Sackboy likes butt stuff. That's not too far at all. You crossed the bridge, Rob. You crossed the bridge and it's not coming back.
Look, it's EA. That's basically how they'd want to play it.
No. We're done. The geek show's over. Game over, man. Game over.
You insisted on ruining something wholesome, so I'm gonna go nuclear on this. Anyway. Unravel, if you haven't played it, right, really, seriously, play it. It's wonderful. The way it tells the story through the imagery and through the actions is great. And I wish more games would pick up on this sort of thing. So anyway, that's what we've been playing during the month of September. Let us know what you guys have been playing out there in the real world. You know, the comments are below. So fill them with all your games from September. Let us know. We're always curious to see what other people are playing as well.
And we'll engage you in those comments as well, as long as those comments aren't horrible. But given that this is YouTube,
yeah.
I made that noise was on brand for my game playing this month.
Well, you have been playing Night in the Woods. So.
Thank you for explaining the joke, Dad.
So anyway, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We've been The Geek Show, and we'll see you next time.